Now, when it comes to Bayonetta 3 original soundtrack, how is it?
And I gotta tell you, it was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
This might be the most consistently sounding soundtrack in the entire franchise. Now, I know that sentence doesn't really make much sense, but if you know what I mean, you know what I mean. The score and the songs here are definitely a step up from Bayonetta 2 and is a strong contender against Bayonetta 1 for best OST in the entire franchise. Moonlight Serenade Climax Mix is the best rendition of Frank Sinatra over Fly Me to the Moon in 1 and Moon River in 2. I literally be bumping this more than the other two. The same thing goes for All Fine by Chelsea Scalia. As iconic as Mysterious Destiny is, All Fine is the greater main theme. Tomorrow's Mine doesn't even compare. But it's not just the themes that have gotten better, the entire soundtrack has evolved from the previous games. Since this is the first Bayonetta game where levels are in several different locations instead of just one location the entire time, a lot of the music fits set settings. Take Paris, France, Egypt, and China. Each of these locations have music you would want to expect to hear in these locations. Hearing this music allows you to further immerse yourself in these worlds. Now, when it comes to the theme of the antagonists in the game, the music also evolves. For 2 games we were dealing with angels, so a lot more vocal high pitches, choral stuff. But the Homunculi on the other hand are more technological presence to them, therefore it's a lot more techno and more upbeat. It's also very chaotic and more frantic as the fight goes on. A lot less elegant than the theme of the angels, but still just as foreboding and sinister at times. Singularity, the main antagonist, has several great themes throughout his entire different stages that really capture this musical aesthetic. What is cool about this is that certain enemies and stages trigger different themes, which each having a slight variation of it. The music really goes through a lot of set pieces, and you really actually are surprised by how many locations the entire game has, and you're never bored in one location, and the music also helps with this. The beginning of the game captures this in the best way. In the beginning, we have the following tracks: The Beginning of the End, Requiem, Moonlight Serenade, and All Fine. But what makes this soundtrack really the best out of 3 is that it gave us so many new iconic themes and songs. My personal favorites of this entire original soundtrack are Night Shadows Dance, Riders of the Light Climax Mix, Fertile Ronda, Moonlight Serenade, All Night, the beginning of the game, Try to Stop Me, Ancient Magic Art Demon Slave, and of course, Let's Dance Boys' third climax mix. But the absolute best track in the entire original soundtrack is Ferdal Rotunda. That shit is the greatest thing I've ever had the pleasure of hearing. The game design in the sandbox of Bayonetta 3 is truly great. This is the most fun I've ever had while gaming in a while. There are so many ways for me to play this game, and you actually have more fun options to play as the other two games before. With the introduction of Demon Slave mechanic, you can finally play as the demons Bayonetta summons instead of it just being like a gag moment. We have been asking for this feature since Bayonetta first came out, and when it was revealed I was beyond excited. This gameplay mechanic actually exceeded my expectations. So while I'm on the topic, let's discuss this new mechanic. So, Bayonetta has access to 12 demons in total, and you can equip up to 3 at a time to swap in between during fights. You can also change these demons mid-game just like you can with your weapons, allowing you total freedom on how you want to play. You're never just locked in to just a few demons at a time. You can either fight as the demon yourself, or you can equip the Nucleus of Talos, which makes the demon fight on autopilot. When you summon a demon to fight, you cannot move as you have to use specific attack inputs. But with the Nucleus of Talos, you'll be able to move and fight alongside the demon as Bayonetta. They all share the same bar that fades away with time. If your demons are damaged, the bar is drained faster. Another layer is that these demons can actually become enraged and attack you if they are damaged too heavily. But you can negate this entirely with the Conqueror's Reigns. This accessory allows the demon to be attacked, but not enraged. Each demon has a separate combo list and a unique set of abilities and special attacks. Madama Butterfly, who acts like the most like Bayonetta for example, can do uppercuts, flying kicks, and more. The Upbrain Clock Tower can unleash 4 miniguns on all sides, launch explosive strikes, and even activate a longer witch time that you can spam to combo lock to your heart's content. Some demons have different forms that can be activated, like Labalos, who can become like 5 smaller demons which then have a different attack combo list. There are even demons with special attacks that are even more powerful, as they require either time to activate or multiple activations in order to happen. If you can use Ball Song of Ball 4 different times without being interrupted, you can summon a Poison Rain that practically kills everything in an area, and can even one-shot certain bosses if you get lucky. The War Chain Goron special allows it to deal way more damage than initially before. I don't even need to tell you how OP Rodon's demon is if you can get it, because his boss fight, oh boy, it's not fun. This system is really well executed, and it allows for virtually infinite combo possibilities. You can also equip and unequip certain abilities in every demon skill tree, and also turn off others. That way, you're not accidentally doing a move you didn't want to do and you end up fucking up your combos. The weapons of Bayonetta 3 are different from how they were in 1 and 2. In addition to getting practically a whole new set of weapons, we aren't able to equip 2 sets of weapons on hands and feet like in the previous games. I remember that people really bumped out with this mechanic change, but the more, we saw the introductions of the new weapons and what they were capable of, it kind of made sense, like some of these weapons is like, that's not really a good combo combination. Bayonetta can also have a total of 15 weapons to fight with. Each has its own set of combos and special attacks as well, much like the demons. You got your heavy weapons like the G-Pillar, which is a large hammer with a cannon on the end of it, Cassiopeia, which is this crossbow anchor type weapon, Tartarus, a pair of doors with spikes on the end that can summon Gatling guns and also block damage, and Deta Expect, which are like these chainsaw weapons that you can ride on and attack your enemies with. Like, all of them are like really cool. They're clunky and less maneuverable, but they have heavy damage once you can execute combos, and I think Tartarus is the best example at this. If you want a more personal and close quarters combat experience that really, want to deal heavy damage, then these weapons are for you. The Deta Express and Cassiopeia have ranged attacks, but they are like short range attacks. Like, sometimes they can go far, but you gotta just time it right. Then you have your weapons that are quick and fast paced, allowing you to move very quickly and perform flashy combos. These weapons are Color My World, which is Bayonetta's main set of pistols in this game, Ignis Arena Yo-Yo, which is a set of yo-yos as the name suggests, Simone, which is the set of fans, Aruna, which is the set of whips, and these weapons have like faster combos you can execute, and they are like the best weapons if you want to achieve a high combo score, or you just want to create like a flashy Bayonetta montage. Simone is my weapon of choice for getting combos alongside like the pistol weapons like Love is Blue and Color My World, because those are just really satisfying to use combos with. Then you have your ranged weapons, Abracadabra, which is a magical hat and cane set, and Cruel Alteo, which are these like gauntlets and things that you have to like launch at your enemies. But then you have like these 2 unique weapons like Ribbit Libido BZ55, which is like a microphone weapon, and Rodon's weapon, which is like a combination of different weapons. The Ribbit Libido acts more of a heavy weapon, but it is more easy to maneuver around with, and you can pull off some flashy combos if you can time it right. Also important to note that some of these weapons are elemental based, like Alteo is ice and Ignis Reina is fire. Also, Scarborough Fair and Love is Blue, as I mentioned earlier, are also able to be used in this game, and they retain much of their combos from the previous games, but they have been upgraded to fit the current game mechanics. Much like the Demon Slave, each weapon has a skill tree with customizable movesets where you can equip and unequip certain moves. When it comes to these weapons, they also have ultimate attacks, which is the first for the Bayonetta franchise. You can unleash this ultimate attack called Masquerade Rage, and I'm over here like it deals like crazy amounts of damage if you can time it right. Okay, some are area of effect based, while others require specific activation time to activate and also certain range. If you activate them at the wrong time, or you're like out of range of where it's supposed to hit, you will completely miss everything, and then you have to do all this to build it up again. The way you build it up is with your ultimate gauges by performing combos with your selected demon through Wicked Weave's attacks, or just using the demon also. Some weapons with the best ultimates are Abracadabra, Cruel Altea, Simone, Dead Express, and Tartarus. The weakest has to be by far Igneous Yo-Yo and G-Pillar. I mean, like, they're just garbage. They're just straight garbage, especially if you miss. Like, what was the point of that? Now, as for me, the setup that I love to run and have the most fun with is this following setup. For my two weapons, I have Love is Blue in the first slot, and then I have Abracadabra in the second slot. Love is Blue is what I use for combos, and then I have Abracadabra for its ultimate, as it's the most powerful one in the game, at least to me it is. For my demons, I have Madama Butterfly in the first slot, Labalos in the second slot, and Umbran Clock Tower in my third slot. Umbran Clock Tower is the one I mainly use because I spammed, its Witch Time through Infinite Climax difficulty, as it allows me to cheese through boss fights, as you will see later on. And then for my earrings, I ran Rageful Fang, which increases Demon Masquerade damage, and Conquer Range, which prevented my demons from becoming ranged and attacking me. This setup is what I ran when playing the hardest difficulty in the game, Bayonetta 3, Infinite Climax. I also used Aruna for when the times got rough, which has, it works. Okay, if you're in a bind, it works. We will get to that in a bit. But now I also skip through John's missions because they just weren't for me. I mean, I love the gimmick of it, and the side scroll. Like, I get it, what they were going for, but I just had no desire to play it over and over again. It just was not for me. Also, some returning things from the first two Bayonetta games. You can craft items by gathering orbs and following specific recipes anytime throughout the game, or you can buy them in the Gates of Hell, unless you are an Alderaan junkie who's absolute sweats at Bayonetta. Buying and crafting items is how you're going to survive at hard difficulties, because not everyone can bob and weave like they can. You can also have different accessories with different abilities, each giving you certain abilities and ways of replenishing yourself. Another thing is what I love about each weapon is that it has like a different form when you're like traveling through the world, so that way you can like move faster, and they all like really look cool. Like, it's like literally like the weapons match the demon that they're attached to, and that shows up in your form when you're like running around to go faster. Some are slower than others, but for the most part, I think it's fine. The overall UI is fine how it is, and it still I love the ability to select specific points in levels, and I believe that every game should include that, because I don't want to just be sent through the entire game just to, play one level, you know what I mean? And speaking of the difficulties, Bayonetta has 4 difficulties. 3 at the start, and then the final once you beat the game. These difficulties are Casual, Standard, Expert, and Infinite Climax. And oh boy, let me tell you, if you play Bayonetta 3 on Infinite Climax mode and you actually manage to complete a level while getting Platinum or even Pure Platinum, please go outside and touch grass. Like, are you okay? I have played it, and in my 14 years of playing video games, Bayonetta 3 is my first ever video game I've ever beaten on every difficulty available. Never again. You hear me? I mean, never again. The amount of times that I got my shit absolutely rocked in Infinite Climax mode makes even a casual player look better than me, especially when it came to Viola's mission. She is the absolute worst part of this entire experience, especially because I put my sole focus on Bayonetta, that Viola's health was just basically non-existent when I was playing on this harder difficulty. The amount of times I was one-tapped should actually be studied in universities. Like, I knew Infinite Climax mode was going to be tough, which is why I trained beforehand, and I also did some shopping. A lot of shopping. Now, most people would have tried to, test their skills and prove they are gods at this game, but not me. Okay, not me. If this game gives you health packs, I'm going to use said health packs every chance I get, okay? I don't even care if it prevents me from getting pure platinum, alright? Have you seen the suffering I have gone through in my over 30 hours of playing this game? I'm like not even trying to play this insanity any longer than I had to, okay? Luckily for me, I'm a sadist and masochist, so I wasn't really raging as often as a normie would. And you know, I didn't really want to talk about Viola, but she absolutely made playing Infinite Climax the worst experience ever of Bayonetta that I've ever had, okay? And Viola is no doubt the worst thing about this game. Like, Viola as a character, I absolutely adore, and I really find her aesthetic to be very unique. Like, I find her charming, right? The problem is, you are first having to learn two... See, okay, so the game is teaching you to learn two completely different fighting styles at the same time, because you can be playing as Bayonetta 1 minute and then Viola the next. And when you're playing as Viola, everything you did while playing as Bayonetta needs to just be thrown out the window. Like, everything you memorized and learned, just throw that out the window. Like, forget about it. It is like being forced to drive a motorcycle for 10 minutes, then being stopped, and then having to ride a bicycle for 15 minutes, only to then be stopped again and handed back the motorcycle you had just got off winning. You know, this is a process until you reach your destination. Like, it is entirely frustrating, okay, to be going back and forth like that. Viola's moveset and kit is like one of the things that like is great on paper, but it is absolutely atrocious in execution. Now, playing Viola in casual and standard difficulty is not that bad, but on expert and infinite climax, it really makes you wish your mother had swallowed you. Like, the real issue with Viola is the change in how witch time is used. So there are two forms of witch time: activation and, you know, blocking, and then it activates. Now, you are forced to memorize both of them, right? So Bayonetta is easy to remember as it's just one button at the right time. With Viola, it is an entirely different button, but at the right time. Viola, you have to block at the right time. However, when you play as Bayonetta for such a long time that when you play as Viola, your muscle memory and conditioning tells you that this button, when pressed at the right time, activates witch time. So when you hit that button because that is what you have been conditioned to do, and you have been getting obliterated, of course you're going to be feeling cheated by the game. Like, why couldn't they get rid of Viola's ability to evade and replace that with her blocking feature? That way you can still press the same button that you use as Bayonetta and you can still get the same result. You don't understand the level of irritation and how many times I burst into tears because I kept forgetting that Viola's blocking feature is a whole separate button. In conclusion, if you play Viola more like her mother, like, if they had just made Viola like Bayonetta, just like literally just switch her kit around, just replace the thing, we would all be in happier places and Viola wouldn't be that much of an issue. But because they didn't, for whatever reason, Viola is the worst game feature in this game. Okay, now that I've done with my, you know, little Viola temper tantrum, okay, let's talk about the enemies. Are they fun to beat up? Yes. Yes, they are. Are they fun to beat up at higher difficulties? No. No, they're not. First, let's go over all the enemy types Bayonetta 3 has in store for you to beat the hell out of. You got your small cannon fodder, you know, your big cannon fodder that moves really fast, cannon fodder that blasts you from afar, and cannon fodder that can make other cannon fodder invisible. Bayonetta 3 has truly the most diverse enemies in the entire franchise. Like, they literally created enemies specifically with the new mechanics in mind and also in practice. Like, there's this one enemy where you can't use your demon or even a demon masquerade attacks, as it will split off into more enemies, and so you either play it safe and just weed out its health the known way, or you take risks to try to get rid of it faster. There's another enemy where you can't use projectiles as it forms a shield around itself. Some enemies are fun to beat up while others not so much. Now, there's this thing with the spawning of certain enemies, right? You see, at lower difficulties, different enemies spawn at certain points in the game. This is supposed to coincide when you get the weapons and demons that can handle certain enemies. This is to prevent you from getting an enemy when you don't have the demon required to defeat it and then getting your ass handed to you. Now, with Infinite Climax mode, no, this is not the case at all. Since it goes off the assumption that you have every demon and weapon, it wastes no time in throwing every enemy imaginable at you. Also, they switch up the bosses and when they appear, so you can't prepare beforehand. Like, that is also another thing. The game changes how much of what enemy it throws at you at any given time on Infinite Climax mode. You can't memorize what enemy appears when, therefore you must be ready to face every enemy. The boss fights are actually fun to play, especially the final boss. Like, the final fight against Singularity plays out like the series finale of a TV show. Like, it is, there's so many callbacks and hardcore moments. Like, it's my favorite boss fight in the entire franchise. it does go on, a bit longer than it should have, but given the fact that it's like its own mission, it's fine. Like, I mean, I really love like the pacing of Fighting Singularity and like how like the phases. I mean, like, sure, he does like call back some of bosses, but you don't really need to focus on those until like specific ones. But other than that, it's fine. Oh, I also forgot to mention about this really stupid mission that I absolutely hate. And it's where you're fighting on these two platforms, with another version of John on one of the other platforms fighting her enemies, and then you're fighting one of the enemies. However, this platform is like a weighted skill, right? So you can't summon your demons and use them to fight, because as you do, their weight will literally sink you down into like the gray stuff, whatever that's called, and you'll do damage, and it will do like a lot of damage to you, right? So you have to like use your demons sparingly because of the weight. So you can't really use your demons, especially like these boss fights. It's like, oh my Jesus Christ, I hated that boss fight. It was so irritating and annoying. But anyway, but then also for some reason, I don't know if John's summoning her own demons or whatever, but her side will start getting weighted down. So then that's when you're supposed to summon your demon to like put more weight on it so that it's balanced. However, all right, if you're so focused on like fighting the thing that you don't even realize it until Bayonetta says something, then you're like, oh yeah, I better summon my demon at this point. But then you also remember that you can't have it on for too long, because then you'll start to sing. And like, it's just that boss fight, especially on Infinite Climax mode, oh my gosh, it gives me aneurysm just thinking about it. Oh boy.